Right, just want to go through this. At the end of the last video on that little tiny plane, I said I was going to show you the another plane. This one was bent, it was twisted, it had got all sorts of problems. And if you go back through my videos, in fact, I'll see if I can find a clip and put it in here. With Rabbet, he heated this up and moved it over. It was all offset by, I don't know how many, a couple of mil at least. Here's that video clip I was talking about. It's worth watching the full video. This is the second time we had to get a flame to it because of springback, and we got it so close. It's worth looking at if you've got one in a similar position. It is worth doing. Anyhow, it's all done now. It's sitting on my bench and getting a bit dirty. One of the things I did was I did flatten the side a bit with the stone, so it's not far away from square at all. It's very close. It's looking much better. I've gone over it with a Carriage block. So this is the grey one. I don't know what that is. That's grey is medium, 120 grit. And I try not to use one end, but I use the other end. But basically, all I had to do was go over this, up and down, in that straight line, keeping it all straight. The bottom, there's only a little bit that's not quite there yet, but the rest is great. But just remember, this isn't like a shoulder plane. This isn't for doing the size of tenons. This is more for panel work. And actually, it's used... It's in a way, it is what it is. It's a smoothing plane, but it does rebates. So it's pretty much an all-rounder. But before we carry on, I've got to get this sharpened. I've got to get it set up. I want you guys to see it in use. Not totally on a job use, but let's just try on a practice piece. Anyhow, the bevel on here was terrible. It was all over the place. So I've had to bring it to my bench grinder and re-establish the 25-degree angle. So to save losing the temper in the metal, I dip it in water every 2 or 3 goes across the grinder to make sure it stays cool. And this is where we're up to. This is the hollow grind bevel at 25 degrees. So now it's ready for honing. Right, I'm going to talk you through this next bit. This is me dripping a little bit of water onto my 400 grit diamond stone. And as you can see, I'm going for the David Charlesworth ruler trick here. There's a reason for that, because the back of the blade was curved, which means that the oil stone was hollowed out, it was worn out. And because it had got a hollow in, it wasn't perfectly flat. The edges and the sides and the edge were slightly rounded, and that bothered me enough to think, right, I can't make this dead flat. So the second option to me is David Charlesworth ruler trick. So basically the ruler elevates the one end of the blade very slightly. This is less than 0.5 millimeter, and then the edge that I'm just wiping now will have a very small, less than 1 degree micro bevel. Are we that bothered about it? No, it hardly makes any difference. Is it worth doing? In cases like this, I feel it is. But now you're thinking, well, what's he doing now? Well, when you do the Charlesworth, and you just, like I've done it on quite a coarse grit to help this, you end up then with 2 bevels. You've got the flat back and this micro bevel. And what I'm trying to do here is sort of round off the difference between the 2 bevels. Let me see if I can show you. So here you go. You should be able to see it. So I'm cleaning all the slurry off. So can you see that line there between the 2 bevels? It's about 1/4 inch from the front. So that's what I want to try and lose some of that. But it's also, I can see right on the edge, right on the tip, that there's still a bit of a rounding on that edge. So it does need a little bit more. So I will give it a little bit more and get a bit closer to that edge. Right, I've got the next minute to tell you what's going on. I'm setting up a honing guide that I've got at 25 degrees. This is the Stanley 50 correct honing guide, and it screws into the top of the blade, sits in the slot in the blade, and they are so useful. These a few years ago were £3 on eBay. Now they're about £10 on eBay, and Veritas have even bought their own version out now so that you can use the same principle. It's very easy, it's great to use. Let's get back to the plain iron. We're at 400 grit. This is not a cambered blade. What that means is it's not curved. I want the edge, the front edge, the pointy sharp edge to be dead straight, because it will be cutting rebates. So just going through this now, make sure I'm happy with this. As I say, set up with that guide at 25 degrees. It is for me one of the best guides out there. Now I'm on to my 10,000 grit Naniwa Japanese waterstone. I'm setting the guide up to the line on here, which is at 30 degrees. So this is the second bevel that people talk about, or some call it the tertiary bevel. I'll put in the comments what you call it. Different people call it different things. This is my water. I let it drip out the top, and I'm going to just give it a few pushes up and down carefully on the stone. This is a water stone, and you can dig in and you can ruin a stone quite easily if you don't take care. So there we go, up and down, and it didn't take long. We're going to have a quick look and see if the edge is there, and if I can see the edge, you might see it glint. There you go. That glint tells me that it's doing pretty good, but I don't think it goes all the way to the both ends. So now I'm going to give it another quick go on there, still trying to keep it straight all the way across. I might, and this is, I might just lean a little bit more one corner to the other, but I shouldn't. I should keep it as flat as I possibly can. Now I'm polishing the back up. So what this will do is this will give the back face a polish, which will help create a sharp edge where these two polished faces meet. So that's the definition of a sharp edge, is two polished surfaces meeting at an angle around 30 degrees for woodworking. So now you can see where that line is. So you can see I've taken some off there. So now, because I've taken some off there, I'm going to use the Charlesworth ruler trick again, just to make sure I get nearer that sharp front edge of the blade. Okay, speeding things up a bit now. We're at 2 times speed, still with the David Charlesworth method on the back. And now we're going back to the bevel. And it's because it's a little bit worn. It's a little bit worn out. I haven't got a lot of time to spend on this. I just want to get it working. Rotate the stone so that we can get some even wear on the stone. And I wouldn't normally spend this long on a blade once it's maintained. So this is a little bit longer than I would normally spend on it. But Matt, when he's got the plane back, will be able to refine this and get a good maintenance program for the blade. Now I'm going to strop it. Now I don't need to strop it, but I just want to make sure that the back, there you go, is just right. And because of that bevel, it was not 100%, but I'm happier then. Now those marks there are from the rule or the grinder, the bench grinder. So I'm just going to spend a couple of seconds on those, see to get some polish on them, to stop those areas from rusting, because this blade will rust. So other solution, a little bit of camellia oil. So Japanese woodworkers use camellia oil. It's nice and friendly and safe, and if you wipe it all over the blade, then it'll stop any rust, especially when you've been using waterstones. So you don't want to put a plain blade back into the plane and let it go rusty. So camellia oil is brilliant. Then just wipe the excess. And I'm fine with the camellia oil on my leather strop. It's not going to make any difference to it. And just making sure that that's rubbed on and in throughout the area of the blade that will have got wet. So there you go, that's looking pretty good now. So I've put the cap iron on the blade, screwed the two together with about 3/4 of a millimetre from the edge of the blade. And when I put it in the plane, I like to hold the bed flat, horizontal, so that it's easier to adjust and easier to keep in place. And then the lever cap, snap the lever down, and then view it with a piece of paper or something white in the background. So I'm just making sure there's no dust on the bottom of the plane, adjusting the lateral adjustment lever, and now the brass adjustment wheel, pulling the blade out and then sometimes back in if it goes out too far, back to the lever cap, the lever iron, the lateral iron I should say, to make sure it's, I'm after a parallel line between the blade and the bottom of the sole. And then it first cuts in I don't know how many years. So how's it cutting? Just straight onto the piece of wood. And how does it feel? Adjust, pull the blade back in and then back out just a slight bit more. When I pull the blade back in, it's just to take the play out and then tighten the mechanism back up again, so that when the plane blade's in position and you're pushing the plane, the blade isn't free to go backwards, it's falling against the mechanism. And this works. So this is pretty good. Last couple of little adjustments. It appears to be working all right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and manually, and people don't really do this, perform a rebate. Normally you might clamp a piece of wood in place, have some sort of fence. I haven't even put a pencil mark, I haven't put a pencil line, nothing, I'm just trying. So push the plane a couple of times over just to see where the grain is, see how the plane's doing, get a feel for the plane. Now this is important, I'm clearing the throat or escapement each time there's a shaving there, because that shaving can stop the plane moving freely over the piece of wood. So now I've moved to the end of the piece of wood and I'm just taking a bit at a time, and each time I do that you'll see I'm working a bit further way back down the piece of wood, and it's going pretty well. So I'm sitting the rebate plane edge into the rebate, into the channel that I'm creating. It's not really a channel, it's a corner, and it's going pretty good. Clearing the shavings every time, little bits of adjustment. This hasn't been used in I don't know how many years, so I'm the first person to use it in absolutely ages. And this will become a very good plane. It needs a bit more maintenance, but that's easy now. It's working, it's producing shavings, it's creating a rebate. I'm going all the way down there now, and let's have a look. So you can't really see like that, but if I turn it like that you can see what's going on. And it's done a pretty good job. So while I'm here, can you see the finger marks on the side? It's worth just rubbing over with a bit more of that camellia oil and making sure that nothing can go rusty. Both sides. It's looking great. I'm really pleased with it. I think we've done, between Robert and myself, I think we've actually, well, we've got this working again, which most people would write these off if they were bent. They just wouldn't go near it. So I'm pleased with that, and Matt can have it back now it's sorted. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button, make sure you subscribed, and I'll see you on the next video very soon. Thanks for watching.